Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to challenge a really deeply held belief about just how perfectly diversified and how safe your index fund truly is. If you've ever set up a retirement account or even just dabbled in personal finance, you've absolutely heard the golden rule of investing: diversify. The standard advice is super simple, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Just buy a broad index fund, sit back, and let the entire market do the heavy lifting for you over time. It sounds incredibly safe, perfectly balanced, and totally foolproof. But is it? Well, today we're actually going to look at the hard data and the underlying mechanics of these funds to see if that assumption holds up. Because as we're about to see, the actual structure of your investment might look wildly different from that perfectly balanced scale you probably have pictured in your head.
So let's just dive right in with a pretty startling question, one that really targets anyone who is passively investing in major index funds. Are you actually just betting your money on a tiny handful of players? When you put your hard-earned cash into something like the S&P 500, the baseline assumption is that you're insulating yourself from risk. The logic makes sense. If one company has a terrible year, it doesn't really matter because you've got hundreds of other companies picking up the slack. But what if the internal structure of that fund meant your financial future was actually tied directly to the daily performance of just a very small, ultra-exclusive club of megacorporations? We really have to ask ourselves if this passive set-it-and-forget-it strategy is actually just a highly concentrated, high-stakes wager in disguise.
All right, part one, the diversification illusion. Let's talk about this false sense of safety.
We're all taught that buying an index fund, like the S&P 500, means owning a proportional piece of 500 companies. We expect a vast, equally distributed landscape of American business, all pulling the economic weight together. But there is a massive gap between that comforting expectation and the stark reality where just 10 tech giants are basically running the show. You see, these funds aren't equally weighted. They're what's called market cap weighted. All that means is that the bigger a company becomes in the real world, the larger the slice of your investment it consumes. And over time, this has created an environment where a tiny fraction of the companies at the very top have grown so undeniably colossal that they dominate the entire fund, casting this massive shadow over the rest of the market.
Which brings us to part two, the shocking math behind this index weight reality.
Let's pull back the curtain and look at the mathematical reality behind your portfolio. The crucial point here is this frankly surprising statistic: the top 10 companies now account for over 40% of the entire index's weight. Take a second to really let that sink in. Out of 500 companies, the absolute titans of the modern economy, just 10 of them command more than 40% of your investment dollar. Think about it like this. If you invest $100 into this supposedly broad, incredibly diversified fund, over $40 is immediately siphoned off and handed directly to just 10 tech giants. That means the other 490 companies have to fight over whatever is left. It completely shatters that illusion of the balanced, democratic index fund we all kind of thought we were buying into.
It's a massive squeeze. You have this huge, bulging chunk of the pie representing just 10 individual companies, and they are dictating the overall direction of your entire investment. And then the remaining space, less than 60% of the total, has to be furiously divided up into 490 microscopic slivers. If the top 10 companies have a great day, the whole market moves up. If they stumble, everything drags down with them. The sheer weight of those 10 completely, and I mean completely, overpowers the combined, collective effort of the other 490.
Okay, part three, the fruit salad fallacy. Let's talk about the one giant strawberry.
To translate all this heavy market cap weighting into something we can all easily picture, think of your supposedly diversified portfolio as a fruit salad with one strawberry. Now, it's playfully absurd, right? Imagine eating a salad that is 40% one giant dominant strawberry and 60% tiny grapes. Imagine you're sitting down at a nice restaurant, trying to be healthy. You order a large mixed fruit salad. You're expecting a wonderful variety: some melon, some pineapple, a few blueberries, maybe a little kiwi. But when the bowl arrives, it is almost entirely filled by a single genetically modified melon-sized strawberry. Underneath this colossal strawberry, there's just a smattering of tiny, insignificant grapes. Technically, yes, the bowl contains multiple types of fruit, but practically speaking, your experience, your meal, and the entire flavor profile are completely dictated by that one massive strawberry. That is exactly what's happening in your retirement account right now. You bought the index for the variety, but you are consuming the strawberry.
Moving on to part four, the stagnant 490, and what that top-heavy fruit salad is actually hiding. This brings us to the hidden consequence of all this. It's not just about the concentration of wealth. It's about what that concentration is actively hiding from plain view. The massive, outside success of a few tech giants, those rockets you see soaring upward, is actually acting as a mask. They're completely hiding the flatlining, stagnant performance of the other 490 companies. You see, when you check your portfolio and see that your index fund is up for the year, it's totally natural to assume the broader economy is thriving. You assume businesses across the board are growing and generating value. But the math tells a very different story. Because those top 10 tech giants are so incredibly heavy, their soaring success pulls the entire average up with them. They are pulling the weight virtually by themselves. Underneath that impressive surface-level performance, the reality for the remaining 490 companies is a whole lot bleaker. Many of them are completely flatlining. They're stagnant, they're treading water, or they're even shrinking. The booming tech giants are effectively camouflaging the stagnation of the broader market.
So to distill our takeaways from this explainer today, you bought 500 companies for safety, but the math reveals you are heavily reliant on the success of just 10 giants who are hiding the stagnation of the rest. And this matters immensely for how you think about your financial future. We have to understand that the label on the box doesn't always match the ingredients inside. When you rely on a market cap-weighted index fund, your fortunes are overwhelmingly tethered to a specific sector and a specific handful of leadership teams. Now look, it's still a very powerful investment tool, but it's just not the perfectly balanced all-weather shield that the traditional diversification buzzword implies. You're carrying a significant amount of concentrated risk, and it is absolutely crucial to be aware of what is actually driving your returns.
I want to leave you with this one provocative thought regarding your own money. If just 10 stocks are driving the engine of your retirement account, how diversified are you really? The next time you look at your investment dashboard and see a sea of green or red, remember the fruit salad. Remember the giant strawberry. Ask yourself if you are truly comfortable with that level of concentration, or if it's maybe time to rethink what true diversification actually means for your unique financial goals. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep asking the right questions about the math behind your money.